Uh, I'm Kate Bringardner. I'm an executive presence and speech coach, and I have been really enthralled with the Fauci emails that have recently been released. And I thought that I would go over a few. So we're talking about business communication and power and status and what our emails reveal about us, about leadership, about working under crisis, about how to approach and talk to people through email. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen and go through some of these emails. And I hope you find this useful and beneficial. I hope you can take away some insights that you can apply to your own emails as you continue your professional development and leadership. I am going to share my screen. Now this obviously is not all of Fauci's emails. This is a sampling that I found through BuzzFeed, and but we're going to go through them. This first one is from Mark Zuckerberg, who of course needs no introduction. He is the CEO, founder, creator of Facebook, what is now Facebook. This is Sunday, March 15th to Anthony Fauci. This means that this is just at the beginning of the pandemic. And here we have a letter. I'm going to read some of it. Tony, colon, very interesting, no comma, colon. I wanted to send a note of thanks for your leadership and everything you're doing to make our country's response to this outbreak as effective as possible. I also wanted to share a few ideas of ways we could help you get your message out, but I understand you're incredibly busy, so don't feel a need to reply unless these seem interesting. So a fairly deferential opening from Mark Zuckerberg to Anthony Fauci at this point, at the beginning of the pandemic. Of course, we know that there have been dozens of eyeballs on this email, right? I'm sure lawyers vetted it and other internal leaders vetted this email to Fauci. It's a very well-written email. This isn't public yet, and here's what he does, but we're building a coronavirus information hub. And then he goes on to remind Fauci of his power, his influence, 200 million Americans, 2.5 billion worldwide, with two goals. Here, note that instead of bullet pointing them out, he keeps them in the paragraph themselves. One, make sure people can get authoritative information from reliable sources. And two, encourage people to practice social distance. He's laying out some ideas. He's got some more information, redacted. He ends this email, this communication with, again, I know you're incredibly busy, so deferential, so please don't feel, I added the please, so don't feel the need to respond if this doesn't seem helpful. If it's easy to talk live, give me a call anytime on my mobile number. So offering his availability, thanks again for everything you're doing, period, no comma, Mark, no thanks, no sincerely, no signing off. Very strongly, strong email, deferential, helpful tone here. So just an interesting way to approach. Again, there's no sign off, there's no comma, just thanks again for everything you're doing. I think this is interesting. Okay, so here's an email from Tony, internal email to Courtney Billett. I don't know who this is. She's with the National Institute for Health. And a few people are copied on this. Notice no opening in this email, and notice the short sentences and strong action verbs. I will write to or call Mark and tell him I am interested. I will then tell him. I agree it should be, right? So very strongly worded, short, that sort of thing. There's no sign off, there's no period here. This is obviously a man who, number one, we know doesn't have a lot of time. This is Tuesday, March 17th. You can see the roll of time here. It's been 2 days since Mark Zuckerberg's email, and this is his response. Strongly worded, short, sharp sentences, strong action verbs, no sign off, no closing statement. These are just interesting things to notice when you're thinking about your own communication and how you are communicating either to your supervisors, to people you lead and or direct, also to external audiences as well. So there, our responses, you can go through these. Again, this is BuzzFeed. You can see the header here at the top, and I also included it in the email that I sent and that you may have found this through. Here's here's a response to Morgan Fairchild, who offered her her help in whatever capacity she could do to help disseminate information. I find this interesting. Number one, that he responded. Number two, the tone of it. It's a lengthy response considering this is February 27th. You can imagine the White House is on fire, lots of stuff going on behind scenes and internationally and globally, feeling the pressure coming down. So the fact that he took the time to pen such a lengthy response, as well as sign off best regards. So this is to an external audience, different. So his tone is different than the tone towards an internal audience, or those that he sort of has direct supervision over. Interesting to notice. So there's Morgan Fairchild. You can read that on your own time. I love this. April 9th. How do we nicely say no to this person? I feel like we've probably all been the subject of an email or two like that. How do we nicely say no? What is interesting to note is that whatever request that he had or offer that he had was not being accepted. And perhaps if he had penned his email differently or written it differently in a different tone, in a different way, maybe it would have, or maybe it was just a offer that was unnecessary and not worth the time. Okay. Interesting to consider, for people in sales and what have you. How do you craft an email that gets the attention of the people you need to get the attention of and get them to respond yes instead of no? Okay, this is an email from Greg Gonzalez, and I have to admit that I don't know who this is, to Anthony Fauci and several other people. The AIDS experts among you know me well. We've been adversaries and then colleagues for over 30 years. What an interesting, strong opening. They also know, the AIDS experts, I can't keep my mouth shut, which is a virtue and a failing depending on the context. So some self-awareness there, and sort of prepares you for whatever's going to come next. You know that whatever is going to come next is going to be strongly worded. There are thousands of people waiting for advice from our federal government on a broader social distancing measure in light of the fact that our failure, blah, 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 and he goes on. So, and then he goes through this email, and then your own legacies will be defined by this moment, what you do and what you don't do, what you shy away from saying because you fear for your jobs or your short-term fortunes in the eyes of the president. The status quo is untenable. It's going to get people killed by this virus. Greg. Again, a very strongly worded email. I don't know that I would call this email emotional, but it is strongly worded. There is emotion behind it. There is, you can feel sort of his desire to get people to respond, to provoke. This is a provoking email. And again, you see no sign off here and no, no thanks, anything like that. It's just very short. I don't know if maybe there is a signature underneath this with information, all that contact information. But I do find it interesting that in all of these, there isn't, these big grand sign-off signatures that we have. So again, an interesting example of a strongly worded email that's coming from a place of real drive and urgency. And this was sent March 8th. So again, the pandemic is unfolding. People are wanting information, needing information, wanting to know what to do and how to handle things. And there's not a lot of agreement. So you can imagine just the atmosphere and environment behind the scenes at this moment. It was so provoking that it did indeed get a response from Tony Fauci. So this is interesting. He sent this at 11:17 a.m. on Sunday, March 8th. And by 1:50 on the same day, Fauci responded. You can see he was provoked. Whereas with Zuckerberg's email, 2 days went by. So I don't know if there's maybe a a look into Tony Fauci's sort of psyche and what is able to provoke him. So he responds, Greg, : I am surprised you included me in your note. I genuflect to no one but science and always speak my mind when it comes to public health. I have consistently corrected misstatements by others and will continue to do so. And as evidence, he includes 2 links. So sort of a defensive email, and he signs it, best regards, Tony. Shows today where I am extremely explicit and forceful. I would be happy to chat with you about this. So whatever it was about the previous email that provoked Tony, it certainly provoked a fairly strong response from his as well. And thus begins a conversation. And this is how you open a conversation, right? So there is then ongoing correspondence. This came at 2:54, right? So you can almost sort of like see the emails going back and forth on this particular topic. So you can see that it was a provoking, the email accomplished its goal, right? And that's the point, the email, for email communication to accomplish its goals. Through all of this, I note the lack of errors, the sort of contained and professional tone in the midst of a crisis unfolding. This sentences are short, but they're professional. The tone is clipped, but it's professional. No one's going off. Of course, everyone, I think, has the knowledge or understanding that anything that they write is subject, to open records requests and may be released to the public. And so that's true for many of us, many of the leaders and executives I work with, whether they may be called in a court case or, there's some sort of maybe social disruption that the company may feel compelled to release internal correspondence. So as an executive, you want to write emails, and as an emerging executive, someone, as you grow in your career, you want to be thoughtful of that and write emails that will always reflect well upon you and your company. So error-free emails, being mindful of your tone, being mindful of your sentence structure, being mindful of your audience. These are all things to think about. So it goes on from there. There's some other interesting things to note. This is a rather strident email from Doug Bruce, who was involved with public health in Florida under Governor DeSantis. And this is a strongly worded email, desperate for help and leadership and feeling like he wasn't being heard within his home state of how dangerous the virus could be. So those were some of the insights that I kind of geeked out on when I was reading these emails. I hope you've enjoyed this. Feel free to dig into them yourselves. And if you'd like any help or coaching on your business communication, whether it's emails, verbal or nonverbal, delivering a speech, or working in a boardroom, you let me know. I'll be happy to help. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.